We start off this episode at the Northwest Manor where they're preparing for festivities. And right off the bat we have some weird artifacting happening on the stones on the left side of the fireplace, this weird little red bar. We also get a very important setup for this episode, where we can see that Pacifica is trained to obey when her parents ring that little bell. When Pacifica got scolded for her dress, her mom mentions seafoam green as the party theme, nice. And of course Pacifica is wearing lake foam green. What a faux pas. And I want you to keep this point in mind because I'm going to bring that up later again. A few seconds later, things start levitating and being thrown around, which is, of course, a sign for ghostly activity. One could also say paranormal activity. This introduction segment actually has a few inconsistencies and animation errors that I noticed that I'm going to go over right now. The first few things I noticed were the little bench standing in front of the window vanishing and the curtains just inexplicably changing color. Another thing is that these totem poles are also not visible the first time we see the fireplace, same as the painted wall on the right side of it. In this little close-up shot, you can see the totem pole behind Preston, which you shouldn't be able to. Instead, you should be seeing either the entrance to the room or just the curtains. Because this is so hard to explain just with words, I'm gonna give you a little visual aid, which hopefully makes it easier to understand. He was standing at the entrance of the room, looking to the table, which means that the fireplace and the pole should be to the right of our point of view. To be able to see the pole, like this, to the left of him and the curtain to the right, they would have to be standing at the opposite end of the table. And here comes the kicker. They are suddenly inexplicably standing at the other end of the table, which doesn't even make sense considering the way they approached Pacifica earlier. And I don't think there's two identical fireplaces on both sides of the room, because we would have probably seen that in this shot where the plates start flying. So yeah, the consistency of where they are in the room seems to be all over the place. Ah, how nice of the ghost to help them find a solution to its own haunting. By the way, kind of sad that we never got to see this vampire bat adventure of Dippers. Of the Mystery Solver. What a bogus name. Before we continue onward, I have to talk about the intro theme sequence in this episode. I've got the DVD box of Gravity Falls, and even there, the theme song is weirdly shortened in this episode. And this is actually not the only episode where the theme song has been cut down from roughly 40 seconds to 15. The same thing happened in episode 11, the next one, in episode 14, 15, and 17. The weird thing is that in episode 12, 13, and 16, the theme song is still full length. And I don't really have a clue why it was done this way. I could imagine that they wanted to save a bit of runtime when the episodes were airing on TV, but it's absolutely beyond me why they wouldn't do this in a consistent way with all of the theme songs now shortened. Instead, they have 3 episodes in between where it's still full length. After we've got that out of the way, we're jumping back into the episode where Dipper is chilling in the living room. And why is there a pine cone here? Is this they are called pines, so there has to be a pine cone in the living room situation? Bad jokes aside, I actually don't know if this is intentional or not. Frankly, I could see both being the case. It could just be a random set thingy, someone brought in a pine cone, or they might have fumbled drawing the pine cone and it was supposed to be on the screen before this. Because there are some pine cones laying on the porch, so maybe this one was supposed to be more in the foreground. But I'm just spitballing with this. Naturally, we can't have a ghost episode without some kind of Ghostbusters reference. They also put in a jab against the History Channel, considering 2012 was roughly 2 years after the History Channel aired the first episode of Ancient Aliens and started moving away from actual history-focused programs. The program gets interrupted by breaking news while Brenda, Candy, and Mabel join Tipper. Toby Determined is standing in front of Northwest Manor, having camped there for days, talking about the upcoming annual Snobfest there. Those are my words, by the way, not his, but that's probably the most accurate summary. I know it's just the quality, which makes it hard to see these characters' pupils here, but you can't tell me that these faces don't look hella creepy. Hey, it's that random dude from the last episode, the one with a scarf and the beanie. Of course, the girl gang wants to attend the party, while Dipper still remembers that Pacifica treated all of them like trash.
You're the worst.
Based. The reason why Pacifica is there is to ask Dipper for assistance with a ghost in the manor, and he only agrees under the condition that the girls get party invites, which Pacifica apparently just carried around with her for whatever reason. This footage of Pacifica waving has been running for 55 seconds straight. I find the amount of tiny pee-pee syndrome and snobbiness that I expect would have to be present here to put one's initials on the front lawn in the form of hedges truly baffling. Thought I just mentioned that there's people standing in the pouring rain wearing shades. Make of that whatever you will. No clue what the rules are at Northwest Manor, but for some reason, one of the butlers is wearing gloves, the other one isn't. Okay, this one I 100% need to be fact-checked on in the comments by someone who is way more informed than me, because I'm completely out of my depth here. I think this is supposed to be an orca skeleton, but there's two things that I could see that are definitely not right. First one is that the tail fluke exists, which it shouldn't, because it's not a bone. The second thing is that it only has its lower teeth, and orcas definitely have upper and lower teeth. It also just kind of looks like an odd mix of different skeletons, so yeah, I'm really just unsure about this whole thing in general. This guy was just opening the door for them and then seemed to have teleported up there. Otherwise, there would be no way he could be there that fast, at least if they don't have multiple identical looking butlers. This might be the first time an alcoholic beverage is explicitly shown in the show. Ah yes, when teeth are so fake that they just turn into a single tooth. She also constantly looks like she's smelling something really unpleasant. I really want you to ingrain these images into your brain, because they will come up later on the test. I'm really impressed with the lineup of food on this table being so consistent, except for the jello that's now present on the other one but missing on this one. Taking a peek at this page of the guest list, we've got fancy schmancy looking people with fitting fancy schmancy names. Two of the names are sadly not fully legible. One is Argyle Snifterfoot. I assume there's a T after the F because it doesn't look like an I compared to the other I's in the name, and it would fit height-wise with the other T's written in the guest list. He probably comes from a long line of professional foot sniffers. I assume that the other name is Ambassador something rather. The actual name is sadly not legible at all. The name of this woman right here is also, for some reason, completely missing. The important character on this page is Marius, which we do get some more infos about. For example, that his name is apparently Marius, which is very imaginative. The reason why he's even invited to the fest being that he's the heir of a cravat and epaulette empire, both being accessories that he's prominently wearing. The little text in the guest list making it very apparent that he might have a bit of money at his disposal. After Candy makes a Moby Dick reference by comparing Marius to a white whale, they make a truce that they won't flirt with him. Spoiler alert, that truce won't hold for long. Moving on to Dipper's ghost hunt and to probably the creepiest room in this whole manor, where they even taxidermized a damn mouse. Dipper of course explains the ghost category scale to Pacifica and that it's most likely a category 1 ghost. And we will go over those same ghost categories now as well, just to give you a quick overview. Category 1. Name, is mostly harmless and can make things float. Category 2. Name, pranksters. Are also mostly harmless, only appear in groups of 2 or 3. Category 3. Name, gluttons. Also mostly harmless, they do stink though, and there's a little Ghostbusters reference on the page. Category 4. Name, haunted paintings and image-based specters. They are apparently very loud and their only weakness is a silver mirror. They also include another Ghostbusters theme reference with the dispelling chant reading, "Ain't afraid us no ghostis." Category 5. Name, soulsuckers. They can easily be squashed if they're still small, growing while feeding off a soul of a human, and they can consume that entire soul if not discovered early enough. Category 6. Name, Phantoms of Pain. It's basically a Hellraiser reference, and they can only hurt you if you summon them. Category 7. Name, the Eternal Key. There's one soul per generation that will turn into the Eternal Key, and only one thing that will end its torment, and it doesn't know what that thing is. Connected to that, Category 8. Name, the Petrifying Rock. Basically the lock for the Eternal Key, and if opened by the Eternal Key, releases Kryxus, the Unperceivable. Good thing that apparently never happens, because they never really manage to appear in the same place at the same time. Category 9. Name, Dream Hipster. Basically a Nightmare on Elm Street reference, and they like to brag about their work. Category 10. Name, Danger. The most famous one, the Grim Reaper. Other Category 10s, the Grave Filler, and Slim Creeper. The latter one probably just being a joke with a similar sounding name to Grim Reaper, but I do like to believe that it's a Slim Shady Creeper crossover joke. The only advice given by the author is to pray for mercy. And of course there's another joke with the Ghostbusters line, "Ain't afraid of no ghosts." As I mentioned before, Dipper thinks it's a category 1 because it made things float, and he wants to splash it with anointed water, which is never mentioned anywhere on the category 1 ghost page. Another hint at this not being a category 1 ghost is that category 10 actually describes what's happening right now in the manor as the animal heads literally start oozing blood while chanting ancient sins. Frankly, I didn't expect this Disney show to show dripping blood from dead animals, but here we are. When the ghost starts demolishing the house, there's window shutters and doors on closed bookshelves that fly open. The problem with that is that these didn't exist in the room. When Dipper and Pacifica enter, there are no shutters visible, and the only bookshelves that are present don't have a door on them, so this is definitely an inconsistency. Also interesting that the candle isn't being extinguished but being flung around the room. Must be a ghost thing. The completely unheard of trope in media, when a character says it can't get any worse than this, and a burning skeleton comes crawling out of the damn fireplace and turns into the evil spirit of a lumberjack. Now the ghost starts searching for them and asks them to come out, which seems really stupid, because where else would they be other than under the only thing in the room that they could even use to hide? After the table ratted them out, we jump back to the entrance of the manor where the guests are finally arriving, including the two agents, by the way, disguised of course, as well as the mayor of Gravity Falls, Mayor Befuftelfumter, and his entourage of vultures. Oh, and do you remember me talking about the party theme earlier? Yeah, well, nobody seemed to give a damn about that theme, because nobody is dressed accordingly, which means that even story-wise, the crash out of Pacifica's mom about her not wearing the quote-unquote correct color has no relevance at all and was basically completely unnecessary. Except for the part with Belle, of course. As alluded to earlier, Mabel and Candy instantly break the truce when Marius arrives, and even betray Grenda by trying to exclude her from flirting with him, as they are. Great friends moment. Well, Pacifica and Dipper are still fleeing, running over peacocks in the process, and Dipper decides to trap the ghost in a silver mirror, which was mentioned as the solution to haunted paintings, which, spoiler alert again, works anyways. But what happened to the animals in the room definitely made it seem like it was a category 10. So which is it now? A category 4 or category 10? Or does category 4 stuff also work on category 10 sometimes, if the circumstances are right? No clue, because we don't get any conclusive evidence anyways. While arguing about entering the room that contains Pacifica's parents' favorite carpet while they have muddy shoes, they fall through a painting. This seems to be the episode of foreshadowing with instant payoffs, because when Pacifica says that they might be safe, like clockwork, the ghost appears behind her. And no, this is not criticism. I don't think it's shitty writing. I think they did this on purpose to poke fun at movies and shows containing these kinds of tropes. This might be me reading too much into this, even for my standards, but the picture the ghost jumped out of depicts llamas, which corresponds to the symbol on the Bill's cipher circle representing Pacifica. Coincidence? Definitely possible, but I'm willing to believe it's not, so I'm just going to present it as a fact. I did not see that little hand mirror fall out of the box. Also, insanely detailed metalwork for such a short scene. So yeah, apparently the mirror trick also works on other ghosts beside the category 4 ones, or maybe he is one, but just cracked. I truly don't know. I know it wouldn't have any impact on the show from here on out, but I really want to know how these ghosts work. But Dipper calls the ghost a category 10 again here, so I assume it has to be one. I also just noticed that his image in the mirror is not correct. Instead of looking like this, like it does in the show now, it should look like this because his remaining eye is on the left side. To have the mirror image look like it does in the show though, it would need to be on his right side. I assume this might have been done intentionally to make it look like he's already trapped in the mirror, though technically speaking, at this point he isn't yet. You would think the episode could end here, after the ghost is captured and Dipper and Pacifica aren't worst enemies anymore, but that would be lame. So the ghost just drops a bombshell story. People literally died while constructing the manor, and the Northwest didn't make good on the promise of throwing an annual fest for the common people after the manor was built 150 years ago. And the manor not being surrounded by as many trees anymore meant mudslides leading to the lumberjack's death and him cursing them. Dipper of course confronts them about being snobby pricks, telling Pacifica she's, quote, another link in the world's worst chain. Yikes. Straight up insulted the whole family lineage. She also gets silenced by the bell again when she tells Dipper that her parents told her to keep quiet. Okay, now it's getting kinda annoying. He uses a category 4 dispelling chant, another thing that has nothing to do with the category 10. The ghost asks Dipper if he can let his lumber eyes gaze at the trees one last time, which is technically incorrect considering that he only has one left. But that request was a ploy to free himself by heating up the mirror, making Dipper drop it. Before the ghost arrives at the manor though, we get to witness Candy and Mabel have an absolute mess of a flirting attempt, which Granda of course notices and scolds them for. Her flirting attempt with Marius goes fairly well though. Now we get to the real meat and potatoes of the ghost action though, when he destroys all the glasses of cider while Preston wants to do a toast on their family name. Apparently he really doesn't like cider because he also makes the casks of cider that were standing in front of the fireplace disappear as well. Technically though, that wasn't entirely correct, because this woman who just ran away a few seconds earlier literally just stopped to stand around and sip from her glass. Considering that the other glass she was holding was also shattered before, she must have picked up a new one while everyone around her got turned into wood. The audacity. Okay, one detail quick and dirty. This dude is just this dude with brown hair. Stop. Dipper, a literal 12-year-old, just kicked open a giant wooden double door. Do you know how hard it is to kick open a door? Even as an adult? Have you seen that video of the police trying to break down a door with an actual door ram? Everyone, and I mean everyone, should fear this kid for his kicks. At least in all the chaos, the ice sculpture is still holding up. Now, for some reason, the ghost just monologues about the only way to break the curse, which is for a Northwest to open the gates. So Dipper goes to find Pacifica behind the portrait. It also looks like he just turns to the right to look towards the portrait, but directly to the right of the entrance shouldn't be anything. There's just windows there. Though they do retcon the whole house layout a bit earlier anyway. Because when Dipper confronts them, he walks into this room, which looks like it would be a side entrance, but when he opens the door, we can see the main gate and the fountain in the front. Though this time there's no water spewing out of it. So at this point, we can throw out anything that we think we know about the house layout anyways. Remember when I said, I want you to ingrain these images into your brain, they will come up on the test later? I really want you to ingrain these images into your brain, because they will come up later on the test. Well, that test is now because the pictures they had hanging there were fake ones, where the Northwests look good, and these are the real ones, showing how they really behave. Don't know what the army reference is about though. Maybe they just liked war. Wouldn't surprise me really. Now Pacifica realizes she fumbled with how she behaved and wants to help after Dipper tries to and just gets woodified. They also changed the color of these curtains for some reason from red to purple, similar to what happened in the intro for the episode. When Pacifica wants to pull the lever, which is sometimes there and sometimes isn't, to open the gates, her parents come out of the panic room to scold her, but she fights off the urge to obey the bell and pulls the lever anyways. Now that the curse has been lifted, the lumberjack says his heart that was once as hard as oak now grows soft like a birch or something. Technically though, at least going by categorization, that's bogus because both oak and birch are considered hardwoods. He could have said pine for example though, which is a softwood. Moving on from the different types of wood to the cedar fountain, which is apparently frozen in time here, probably because it's part of the background in this shot. So Pacifica saves everyone and everything returns to normal, though in this shot of Dipper, the background is still the foresty manor, even though it should be the regular one already. Okay, I know I said to throw everything out the window that we knew about the layout of the manor, but I really have to talk about this shot. I have no clue where this part of the manor would be, because Pacifica was definitely standing at the front door when she pulled the lever, but now she's here. I'm fairly certain this is supposed to be the main entrance, but it definitely doesn't look like it. You can even see the main entrance shortly after, where the ambiguous sea creature skeleton has also vanished, by the way. If this is supposed to be the main entrance, which would be pointing towards the main gate, Pacifica wouldn't even be able to see the main gate the same way the butler did when he pulled the lever. As you can see, everything regarding continuity seems to kinda be falling apart at this point. Now that everything is hunky-dory, Mabel, Candy, and Granda of course make up, and Granda even gets Marius's phone number. Also, Pacifica starts to not give a damn about her parents now. Though considering we are slowly but steadily approaching the end of the show, we can't just leave this episode on a solely positive note. So when McGucket tells Dipper that he managed to repair the laptop and that the end times are coming, Dipper waves it off, at least for the night, but we get a glimpse at a countdown for an imminent threat running on said laptop. And of course, considering the Northwests are part of the insanely rich and powerful, they seem to know something regarding the prophecy around Bill Cipher. Or maybe they just like the evil tapestry. I definitely really like this episode. I always like the horror theme in shows, and I think this one had a few good payoffs with Pacifica trying to stand up to her parents, and then in the end discovering that most of her family are basically just lying, cheating, rich assholes. And I think the build up to that point where she finally breaks out of that world's worst chain is pretty solid. So I hope you enjoyed this episode of Mysteries of Gravity Falls as well. And yes, you guessed it, now comes the classic content creator section. If you did enjoy this video, maybe consider giving it a like, or writing a comment, or even subscribing to the channel. It would mean a lot to me, and it would ensure that you don't miss any of the upcoming episodes. It wouldn't cost you anything, and you can always still unsubscribe later. Either way, I hope to see you in the next video. I hope you have an amazing rest of your day, and until then, see ya.